let me make sure that I've got this right. Both Bert and Ernie are absent today? Okay. I'm going to label a paper for each of them. And I'm going to put these on the drying rack so that it stays with the artwork from the rest of the class, and then they'll have a paper to work on next week.
Hey there, it's Katie Jarvis with Managing the Mess. I'm a K-6 elementary art teacher, and I teach at a Title I school just outside of Washington, D.C. In addition to teaching art, I make videos for art teachers just like you, sharing tips and tricks to help you make your job a little bit easier and to help you feel less alone in this crazy career. In this video, I'm going to give you 8 tips for new and absent students.
I'm going to start off with a tip for absent students. To organize student artwork, I pre-print name tag labels. These are just like Avery mailing labels. I put their seat number, their name, their grade level, and their teacher's name. This way, artwork is already labeled and ready to go for hallway displays and for art shows. Having this seat number on it keeps me extremely organized so that I can put the art in number order and I'm able to pass it out very quickly the following week. It also helps me when I'm grading so that I can go through that process quickly as well. For absent students, I would mark on the name tag the letter A, and then I would put that name tag label on the paper that we were using for that week. So if we're using blue construction paper, and that week all the first graders got the blue construction paper, anybody that was absent, I would take their label, write that A on there, stick it on the paper. And then I would put this paper wherever all the papers were going to end up at the end of class. So if we're all putting them in our table folders, I would just go ahead and put this in the table folder. If everybody was going to be putting their artwork on the drying rack, I would just put this blank paper on the drying rack. Now, this is a placeholder that helps me when I go back to grade that I see, oh, well, that student was absent. They weren't here that day. Also, if this is a more than one day project, I've got the paper already ready to go. We're not passing things out and I'm like, oh, you were absent last week. Okay, give me a second. Let me get you a piece of paper. And you're running around disorganized because I just can't stand that. You do so much work and you get ready for the lessons and you think you've got everything ready, but you always, forget to account for what if somebody wasn't here last week? What if somebody walks in you off the street? So this helps a lot that you have that marked down. You already have a piece of paper to give them. When you're passing materials out, you can see that quickly and make those accommodations for that student. One thing you'll want to do is have a system of tracking new students and absent students. So I do this in 2 different places. I would do this on the artwork like you saw with the labels by marking that with an A. I also will mark this on my seating chart. So if there is a new student, I will give them an effort grade for their very first day that they come to my class. And then I would go back in and write absent, 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 absent on all the boxes leading up to their first day. If it is a student that has been absent several times, I'll see that pattern here on my seating chart, but I'll also see it in my grade book. When I find that blank paper from Bert and Ernie, I'm going to put that into my grade book as an absence. Now, if they later finish that work, I will change it and put in a grade for them, but I'll mark it as absent to see over time, is there a pattern that they're missing a lot of art days? Do I have enough information on that student to really fully assess them? In my district, I do have to give 4 art grades every quarter in different areas. And if I don't have enough information, I'm marking that not assessed. I taught that particular skill, but they were not assessed on it because they had not been in our class long enough to get that assessment. Be sure to buddy up with your office staff and let them know how important it is to you as the art teacher to know when there are new students. If they can simply just send you an email, often they already are doing this for administrators and the classroom teachers, but if they can just add you on to those messages, you'll know about new students arriving, about how their name is spelled and what class they'll be in, so you can have materials ready when those new students arrive. Similarly, if the office staff staff can let you know when a student is leaving. You can be sure to return their artwork to them if you're given some notice. Also, if a student has been excessively absent, there could be a point in time when they are unenrolled from your district. So that information could be shared with you as well. They may be on a long trip and they get re-enrolled when they come back, but usually when they've missed a certain amount of days, that does happen. If there are students in your school that are chronically absent, you can get that information from the office as well, and you can try your best to build relationships with those students and encourage them to come to school each and every day, but especially on art day. As an art teacher, there are many reasons why it is just wonderful to make video recorded demos, ones that you put up on your smartboard or your screen and can show to students when you're teaching. I know that I often do this and I love it for when we have new students or students that are absent. Let's say they missed step one of the project. Sometimes I will re-show that video quickly to the whole class, just turning off the sound and then watching it at double speed so those students can quickly see what they missed. Or at other times, I'll have everybody that was here the previous week get started on their work, and I'll have the students that are absent stay on the carpet and they will view my video from the previous week to help them catch up. So it's a way to multiply yourself as a teacher to get that instruction into your new students. I know that I teach a lot of English language learners, so students where English is their second language. So having those visual instructions for them is extremely helpful to help them be successful in my art room. New or absent students are really just happy to be there in your art room and creating. So remember that you can modify things. Often I will have assignments that are done on really big pieces of paper, and if someone has been absent a lot or a new kid shows up, we simply just fold the paper in half and let them create the same thing so they have the same opportunity as the other students, but they make it smaller. And that takes a little bit of pressure off of them because they don't feel so great that they feel like they're behind. So consider doing that. It doesn't mess up your display. They don't all have to look exactly the same, but modify things. Maybe there is a different kind of medium that they could use. Maybe they missed the painting part, but they could use your quick sticks. Or they could use marker because they weren't here for another step. With a project that might be a little bit messier, it's sometimes nice to modify what materials are used so that students can move on to the next step in the project. Try your best to partner up students that could do some of the teaching for you, whether it's a new student or an absent student. When that student arrives back at school, you're going to want to have somebody sitting near them that feels confident, that is already successful within their project, that can show them and help that student a little bit on their artwork to get caught up. Now, another thing that I will sometimes do is when I have a student that's just rocking an assignment, but they're moving really quickly, is I'll ask them if they can make a second one. Let's say for the particular project, we all just had to paint the paper blue. We were making painted texture papers, but I noticed that there are 3 people absent. We will make a couple of extras so that next week we have them to use. Even if we don't need them for that class, maybe in another first grade class, there'll be a new student or something that pops up, and then we will be ready. If you do have extras of things from year to year, you can simply just pack those away with your examples, and you'll be glad that you have them, especially for things like clay projects. Your demos could be saved and used for a student that just pops up out of nowhere and is suddenly in your class one day, and they will really appreciate that they can be part of the art making process. Another strategy that I will sometimes do is I will group students based upon where they are in the assignment. So last week, we were wrapping up our clay snowmen, putting them in little bags, and taking them home. But if you weren't here when we glazed them, you weren't really ready to do that. So I made one of my tables all covered with paper, set out with the glaze and all the projects of the students that either were new or they had been absent when we were glazing. All of those projects were sitting there. And then I had those students sit together and work together because they were on the same step in the project. What will happen then is when we get to the ketchup and pickle day, I'll have those students that were behind and just did their glazing. They will sit with me on that ketchup day and they'll wrap up those clay projects so that they can also take them home. I sure hope this video was helpful for you. If you've got some more tips and tricks for new or absent students, be sure that you share them with me. Either leave them in the comments below or reach out to me on Instagram. I'd love to hear from you.